Hello all, this is John Fariso. I first met Matt at a meeting of Society of Professional Investigators. As I listened to his episodes of PI Perspectives, other guests were answering the very questions that I was looking for. PI Perspectives provides a wealth of information. Thank you, Matt.
The Campbell Group offers best-in-the-industry pricing, service, and coverage for private investigators. With more than 25 years of experience in the industry and over 3,000 PIs insured nationally, the Campbell team has the expertise to make sure you have the coverage you need. Submit an application and receive a quote within 24 hours. Let them know you're a PI Perspectives listener on your application for $50 off your yearly premium.
I want to talk to everybody today about ScopeNow.com. ScopeNow has been a big-time sponsor of this program for quite some time, and I just love their service. I've been using them since the beginning. I'm one of their beta customers, and it's been so awesome to see them grow into the business that they are today, and just how they just keep reinventing themselves and pushing themselves to get more and more information. What it comes down to is ScopeNow is a tool that you definitely need to use if you do social media investigations, any internet research, and really spending less time digging around and looking for information. I think is one of the best points of how ScopeNow can help you. Their AI platform, their analytics are amazing. You really get an idea of what you need. You're reducing the time, you're reducing the manpower that you're spending on doing this research, because they're essentially doing it for you, and they're doing it correctly, which is most important. One of the new things that they're actually offering is this flagging system where you can flag behaviors and really highlight and look out for fraud. If you're doing a lot of fraud research, this is a fantastic tool, and you can set up alerts. So you have particular people that you're looking at, you can actually set up alerts to get notifications when the criteria that you set up is actually is flagged and goes off. It's really, really amazing. And their relationship and association analytics are top notch, really cutting edge and really, really cool. When they brought that out on version 3, it was a game changer. I mean, really being able to see how people interact together and having that relationship, analysis is really, really something that's cool. One of the other things about being involved with ScopeNow is their ability to offer webinars. Their team is cutting edge on putting together and getting out really, really great content. If you're a member of ScopeNow, if you know who they are, you've seen them around on LinkedIn, you'll know that they're constantly doing webinars on these new websites that are coming out, and they're really staying on top of it. And don't forget, any reports that you generate, you can actually white label those reports and put your own logos on and really make them look professional, which could equate to more billing for you as well. So check them out today. It's www.scopenow.com. They're a great, great company. They should be one of the tools in your toolbox, along with whatever kind of search engines you do. You need to make sure that ScopeNow is a part of that suite. Scopenow.com.
Welcome to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. Today, Kitty Hailey is back with a big announcement. Kitty has released her latest book, Code of Professional Conduct: Standards and Ethics for the Investigative Profession. Kitty is here to announce that all Investigators Toolbox members can access her book right on the website. Now, this book is the industry standard on how to ethically run an investigation firm. If you're a Toolbox member, here's just another reason to join. So please welcome Kitty Hailey and your host, New York private investigator, Matt Spare.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spare, your host. We're getting back into ethics again, and I asked Kitty Hailey to come back on because she's got a fourth edition of an amazing book that's out there, and I wanted to kind of highlight it. So, Kitty, I want to welcome you back to the program.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. Always great to chat. I've seen you, fortunately, live at some events recently, and we've chatted on the phone and traded emails, and I just got them back and forth. What have you been up to since the last time we chatted?
Wow, so much. I published 2 books at the end of last year. The new 4th edition of the Code, and I put out a compilation of articles that I've written since 2002. Oh my God, that's such a long time ago. The last 20 years, I've written an additional 30 articles that I put together in a book called The Professional Investigator Part 2. And I'm working on 2 post-conviction cases, and I don't know, just being happy.
Doing life. That's great. That's really great. Yeah, and let's talk about the Forbes Award too, because I don't know if we covered that.
Oh yeah, that little thing.
Yeah. So why don't you tell folks about that?
That was quite exciting, and it was unexpected. In the beginning of November, I was notified by Forbes magazine that I was one of 50 women over 50 who was being honored. And I was thrilled and blown away because I had not anticipated it or expected it.
Right.
I was able to, there was a whole thing on the Forbes website, and I attended a wonderful luncheon at Forbes on Fifth Avenue. And it was really exciting because I'm in the company of such people as Ketanji Brown Jackson, our newest Supreme Court nominee, and the head of the American Bar Association, and Dolores Huerta, who was one of the people who helped Cesar Chavez. She is 91 years old.
Wow.
And the best thing about her, when I met her, she said, I'm going to tell you my plans for the next 10 years. What are yours? And she's 91 years old.
That's great.
So it was very inspirational. I was in good company. It was hosted by Hoda Kotb and Mika Brzezinski. I just got to meet some wonderful people, and it's been helpful for me, but I'm able to pay back through it.
Sure.
I'm trying to work with the people from Forbes to talk about investigators in every state in this union, so
Right.
that we can promote the role of investigators and tell attorneys how they can use us better, because people do not know how to use our services.
Absolutely. I mean, that was something you and I had talked offline. I remember we were down in Florida chatting about this with the meeting the lawyer there, the attorney general. Just making it, or the Bar Association. The president of Bar Association, just making it accessible. Your book to investigators all over the country, just bringing light to it. We talk about this all the time, right? This is a lot of times a second career for people after they had a 20-year career or so, and they've got their on-the-job training. But when it comes to post in law enforcement career, like, there's nobody to guide them. There's nobody to show them the do's and the don'ts. So having this content is super important. And
don't forget that we are a group of people who are not unified unless we belong to a national association.
Right.
Every state in this union, in this country, has a separate set of rules, and everyone is guided differently. And some of them don't have rules, and some of them aren't licensed. And every state, I think at this point, every state has an association, and the association has a code of ethics. And we are so segmented, and yet we do the same thing. And we need each other, and we support each other. And we also need to show the world that we are professionals.
Yeah.
The only way we can be professionals is to have a little more structure, be a little more united, be a little more professional. And that includes living up to a code of ethics that we can be proud of, that says, I may be in Pennsylvania and you may be in New York State. And so our licensing laws are different,
Sure.
but we abide by the same code of ethics. We are all investigators. And if you hire one of us, you can count on us because we work with the same standards as everyone else.
Sure. And I know you've made this book, which is the Code of Professional Conduct, Standard and Ethics for the Investigative Profession, Volume 4, or Edition 4, 4th edition. Right. There we go. So you've made this content available for different state associations, right? Which is amazing, right? There are a few state associations that if you join, they're going to make sure you get a copy of this, that you have reference to it and you're able to glean from it, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's really exciting that finally we've come into our time, that we're not just those people on television that everyone looks at and goes, oh my God, I want to be an investigator. You have to be licensed to be an investigator. You have to take it seriously. You're taking on the responsibility of someone's life and the decisions that they will make going forward because of the information you find today. And so if we don't take it seriously, and if we don't do it with some ethical background, we can really impact people's lives in a negative way. That's not our goal.
Yeah. And, it's so important too, because a lot of times when somebody is contacting you to use your services, like they've had a very traumatic thing happen in their life. It can be criminal related, it can be civil related, could be matrimonial related. Well, their life is not in balance. The reason they're hiring us is because something has gone wrong, right? So having ethics and somebody who's got standards of doing things that helps them navigate through that, right?
That's absolutely true. And what I try to do is to cover how we should work to uphold the highest level of professionalism, how we should work with our client to give them the best service so that they are treated fairly and they know the information they're getting is complete and accurate. And then how we interact with other investigators, because sometimes we don't work alone. Sometimes we need someone else for information or to do a job because you're not in the same area where they are. And you want to make sure that everyone is abiding by those similar ethical standards, that I can count on somebody. Today, I just called someone in Memphis, Tennessee. I need you to represent me in Memphis, Tennessee. Can you do that? And I'm confident that she's going to do it with my code of ethics, with my standards, because she is an ethical woman and she happened to have purchased my book. And I know we've had these discussions. So we agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to see that trend. I would say in the past 5-6 years or so that there's really been this push towards, hey, like ethics are important. Yeah, we really got to watch what we're doing. And even taking it a step further, I remember you had done a webinar, I think it was last year or the year before, on nethics, right?
Yeah.
Going online and the ethics behind doing investigations online, which that opens up a whole nother can of worms of do I or don't I, or should I or shouldn't I, like that kind of stuff, right?
It does. And AI is going to make a whole new world for us as well, because how do we know that the information we have just gotten is really from the source we think it is? When we have, what is it? The GP chat.
Oh, chat GPT. Yeah.
Chat GPT, right. I'm sorry. That can, it can write a book in the style of Kitty Hailey if it wants to. Although I don't think anyone would want to, but at this point, it's and it could be quoted, and you could find resources for it. And that's our problem, that there is no such thing as a fact if we can't find a provenance for it. And that impacts on us and puts an added burden of responsibility on what we do. So internet ethics are an entire different animal.
Yeah, we just did a couple weeks ago an episode on Chat GPT with Scott Walker, and it was fascinating and amazing and scary at the same time. I keep waiting for the Terminator to show up and looking to kill Sarah Connor.
Right.
I'm waiting. Like these machines, they apparently they don't teach themselves yet.
Right.
They're just regurgitating what's being entered in, and apparently it only goes to 2021 as far as the data that's in there. But it continues to change and evolve, and who knows what the next great shiny thing is going to be, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, not going that far, go back 10 years and we have drones. Where can a drone go? What can it see? When is it violating airspace and violating someone's privacy? Putting in GPSs in cars. Can you use them? Can you not use them? What are the laws behind it? Because I mean, everything comes down to three things. Can you do it? And the answer today is yes, we can do anything. We can do anything, right? The second thing is it legal? And it might be legal in my state, not legal in your state. So we have a responsibility to find out what really is legal and what we can do. And then the third thing is, even if it's legal and even if we can do it, is it ethical? Will it improperly impact on someone's life? Will it change it for the worst? Because our job is not to make people suffer. Our job is to find out information that can be used legally. And then there is that moral, ethical line. Where are we crossing that line?
Mhm.
Have we ruined someone's life? Have we impacted upon it in a way that violates their privacy?
Yeah.
We be really careful.
Yeah, these are all things to consider now, and especially as the Wild West continues to roll out and it allows us to do more and more things that we didn't think we could do or know about, and just to be educated about too. So, you think about someone who reads your books and understands this, and then goes to talk to a politician. They're part of our one of our associations that advocates for the investigative profession. Being able to reference a lot of the material that's in the book, it makes you sound like what you're talking about, which is good. And it gives credibility, right? It gives comfort, because we do want to paint a picture of what we do as the good guys, like people that are really just trying to figure out what happened, and find out what happened, understand the implications of what happened and how that's going to affect all parties involved, and really just report on that. And if you can stay in those boundaries, chances are you're doing pretty good, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And today it even becomes more difficult because we have become so polarized that everything has an overtone of political reference.
Mhm.
And that puts an added burden on an investigator. Can you do the job without allowing your personal political or preferences get in the way? I mean, is there a prejudice before we start the job? And if there is, we have to be big enough to recognize it and know that it's going to impact what we do. And so either we have to overcome our own personal prejudices and do the job properly, or turn it over to someone else, because if you can't handle it objectively, you shouldn't be doing the job.
Yeah. I kind of off topic, but I came across something and it kind of had me thinking, right? So I'm a member of association, and the association was announcing a particular speaker, right? And a speaker is a polarizing person, right? It's somebody who got caught in the middle of a political thing, and this person had a law enforcement career. They're caught in the middle of a political thing, and they made a decision, right? And the decision was viewed by some as a good decision, by some as a bad decision. But you understand, in the heat of what was going on, it was the only decision that could have been made, right? So that happens. This person ends up retiring, and now they're in a private career, right? They are now involved in speaking, going out and speaking events. And then you have some people that, because of that instance that happened, like, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years ago, they're like, I don't want to be a part of your state association anymore because you're promoting this particular person. And it's like, wait a second, man, there's two sides to every story. Obviously this person is not here to talk about that particular subject or what happened. They're doing something else. They're entitled to have a career after law enforcement. Oh, and by the way, where do you stand? If you're so offended by what this person did, what does that say about your character and who you are? It's like, I'm pretty obvious and blatant, who you are. And I'm kind of glad that you don't want to be a part of that association anymore, because maybe you're not a good person, right? This is very strange, right? To see people do that.
It is. Well, we live in a cancel culture.
Yeah.
So, if someone did something wrong 25 years ago, don't give them the opportunity to grow and change and learn and become a better citizen and a better person. And that's the problem. But you also have to learn to separate. If everyone turned off Sunday golf because Tiger Woods had an affair 10 years ago,
Right.
then we would not see some of the best golf that ever existed. So we've got to learn to separate the topic, the title, the person, from the thing that they are doing at that moment. And someone may be a horrible human being, but maybe he made a wonderful movie. That doesn't mean that everyone in that movie, every prop person and cameraman and actor has to suffer because he did something bad 25 years ago.
100%.
So let's look at everything in context, in what it is,
of what's
where it is, and
yeah.
let's move on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think this is a good place to take a break. So we're going to jump out real quick. And then when we come back, I want to talk more about the book and just ethics in general. And we'll get going on it. So everybody sit tight and we will be right back.
Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Are you an investigator that can't find the time for research, or are you stuck on a case that has given you issues? Satellite Investigations has a dedicated research team that specializes in skip tracing and defendant locates. Let our expert researchers use a balanced technique of research and pretext know-how to authenticate data and get you the answers you need. Contact us today by emailing us at newcase@satellitepi.com. Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthews@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigators Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. Now let's jump in.
And welcome back to PI
this week's
Perspectives. This is
episode.
Matt Sperry, your host. We're here with the amazing Kitty Hailey. Kitty, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, always great chatting with you, and just getting a sense of the pulse of what's going on, I think is great. You're a fountain of knowledge. We're talking about the Code of Professional Conduct Standards and Ethics for the Investigative Profession, Edition 4. So
It's a big name. I just call it the code.
there you go, the code. We
Right,
should
just
know
the
the
code.
code.
Right.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's funny, people have been asking me, well, why should we accept your code of ethics? And I really want to explain something. It's not my code of ethics. I put it together. It's everybody's code of ethics. It's ethics that existed in writing in every state and national association, or in every licensing board, but they each had different parts of it. One would have 3 things that they said this is our code and this is what we have to live by. One association would have a full page of information that they said, we agreed to abide by this code of ethics. And what I did was to put them together and compile them. And I found that there are so many similarities. Some of them were poorly stated. Some of them were incomplete. Some of them overlapped. Georgia had things in it that Mississippi didn't have in theirs. So I put them all together and I compiled them and I contrasted them and I explained them. And I came up with a book that's about 200 and some odd pages long. And it states clearly what everybody tried to do, and then helps to explain it and explain the words that are used and clarify it. And that's the code. So it's not that I want my code to be out there. It's our code. And I just throw things out there like, oh my goodness, it's Webster's dictionary. So Merriam-Webster put the dictionary together. It's Black's Law Dictionary because Mr. Black decided that those words needed to be defined. And so this is Hailey's code because Kitty Hailey put it together, not because I wrote it. It's not an original writing, but my explanation and my clarification is original.
Yeah.
And so that's all it is. It's a compilation of what we already agreed to.
Yeah. And it's so great because there is feedback from all over the place, right? You know, that contribution from the industry. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here, right? This is stuff that's pretty obvious, but it's just having that one place to go. And especially, you know, it's intimidating for somebody who's just getting into the industry. Like, where do I start? What do I do? How do I make sure I'm doing the right thing? What do I charge? You know, like what do what do we do here? I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So I had a subcontractor who does work for me regularly. He's amazing, does a great job. And you know, we had negotiated a price and this and that. And then one day I get an invoice from him and it's just like a significant increase in it, right? So I call him up, I'm like, hey, like what happened here? He goes, oh, I read Kitty Hailey's book about billing practices. And he goes, I changed my invoice. I was like, awesome, great. Maybe you should have given me the heads up before you send the invoice over. So I had a chuckle. I had a real chuckle about it. And I was like, good for you. You know, good for you that you're taking that initiative for doing things, you know. And it wasn't like I was underpaying him. He was being paid well. It was more along the lines of like copies and mileage and things like that he didn't realize like, hey, I should be billing for this, or I shouldn't be eating that expense. And it was expensive I wasn't even aware of, right? He was just eating it on his own. But yeah, I'll pay you for it. You know, no problem. Just put it in there. Let me know about it. That's all. So I thought you'd appreciate that story.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have to clarify something. That information didn't come from the ethics book. I don't talk about, I only talk about being fair and maintaining standards in the ethics book. That came from my conversation with an investigator book, which where I talked to, it's a conversation that I wish I could have with every new investigator. And it talks about how do we bill? How do we set up an office? How do we find clients? How do we advertise? So that's a whole different thing. Right. Although of both books, one of them was necessary. The code is necessary. The conversation was informative. Yeah. And if someone said to me, which book should I get? I would say, buy the conversation, because it'll tell you how to set up your business and it'll talk about the pitfalls. Sure. But you can always look up the code through various resources, and it's available as an ebook for under $10. So why not?
Why not?
You know,
right. Exactly.
It's a good reference book, right? The conversation is a little more down and dirty. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to charge. It doesn't price fix. It just says, let's look at what your expenses are. You know, the problem is that I've been around a long time. I've been in business for over 50 years because this is not my second profession. This is my profession, right? Yep. And so as a result of it, I have so much information and I've done so many different kinds of cases, and I'm so passionate about it that I just want to share. And you're going to have to tell me to stop talking, because I can go on forever. Give me a topic, I'll talk on it because I've investigated it, or I've worked with someone who has, or I can show you how to avoid a pitfall, or what you should do that people think is legal, but it's not. And that's just a wealth of information that I want to share with everybody. I'm a teacher at heart. You know, I want you to do well, because every time you do well, I do well. You make my profession better because you have become more professional.
No, 100%. It's so necessary. and even, taking a step further in mentorship and things like that, and being a part of state associations, national associations, just being involved, being present, having a voice
Yes.
in the room, having an opinion. One of the things I like to do when I talk, and I've done ethics talks, and I've done talks on, how to do photography and business, growing your business and things like that. I always like to solicit people in the room and have a participation. I feel like when, the audience who you're talking to are people like you and me that kind of do this stuff already. And it's always more interesting, to ask people, hey, what's your take on this? Or does anybody have an opinion on this? Hey, it kills the time, especially when they're asking you to talk for like 2 hours. It's super easy, right? and B, you get some really good fruit out of it, right? Some really good knowledge on back and forth.
Absolutely. We all have something important to say. And I don't know if your listeners are aware of how important you are. You've done so much for this profession. You've put so much into the industry because you know so much about the technical end of things, but you're also an avid investigator yourself. You run a very busy business, and you're president of Aldenies. And so you've taken on a lot of hats and a lot of mantles. Every one of them promotes the professionalism of this industry, which is all I want out of life. If my legacy is nothing more than she helped us to become more professional, then I did it, man, and I'm happy.
Yeah, that was my next question. What do you want to be remembered as? But you're kind of you're taking the steam out of my question. But that's it. It is legacy, right? And that's so important to me. And what's great is, I have young children, and like they see all the stuff that I'm doing, and they get excited by it. I know when I was writing for PI Magazine on a regular basis, I mean, every issue that came out, my kids are reading it, and they're asking me about stuff. And they're not just reading my articles; they're reading other stuff too. So in there, which is cool, because they're learning a little bit about what I do. But hey, I got I have fans, and I have people that aren't fans of mine too. So you can't please everybody, and then you're doing something right.
Everybody doesn't love me. I know that, and it's okay.
Totally
I'm
okay.
allowed. Person, we're allowed to be individuals, but the one thing that we should be united on is that we are in one of the most exciting, helpful, useful, innovative, and invigorating professions in the world. We affect people's lives, and we do it because we are smarter, more prepared, more innovative, more thorough than anyone else.
Yeah.
Attorneys are good. They take the cases into court, but they can't take a case into court that we haven't prepared for them.
Correct.
So we
it's F. Lee Bailey, right? Without investigation, there is no litigation.
Absolutely.
The last time I saw him before he passed away, that was his theme of his talk, and I'm just like, this guy's a genius. Like, it's so true,
It's interesting. The boardwalk seminar for attorneys in New Jersey is being held next week. And I'm glad to be part of that also. But I met F. Lee Bailey 25 years ago at a boardwalk seminar in New Jersey. We had a booth for the New Jersey Association of Licensed Investigators. And he came over, and the first thing he did is, who's the investigator? And I was the only one behind the booth. And I stood up and I said, I guess that's me, sir. And I shook his hand. He said, I want to thank you. We can't do anything without you. Yeah. We don't exist without your existence. So thank you. And he turned around and walked away. And I was like blown away. Oh my God. F. Lee Bailey just shook my hand.
Yeah. The last time I saw him, I was down in Tampa at an alley event. And we had broke for lunch, and, the networker that I am, I took my time getting to the room for lunch. I think I was talking to Kelly Riddle for way too long. And I got there, and all the tables were taken, right? So I go and I get my food, and I sit down, and there's nobody sitting at my table. I'm like, whatever, I'm just sitting down. And who comes along but F. Lee Bailey, and he sits right next to me with his entourage. And I'm just like, holy crap, I'm having lunch with F. Lee Bailey. That's pretty amazing. And I got to chat with him. He's a super nice guy. Super nice guy. Yeah, really, really
Well,
cool. Yeah,
and he helped to elevate the profession. You
yeah.
know, he did it with a lot of fanfare, but he did it well and did it honestly, and that's all we need in life.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And just making sure that folks, that have been in this industry for a while. So I've been doing this almost 20 years. I don't have the pedigree that you have. You've been doing a little bit longer than me. But folks that have been around for a while, just making sure, that you're raising up people behind you. Even in your own business, it's like, you should make sure that if you run a business, you have people working for you, that you're laying the groundwork for them to elevate in the profession as well, and just keep it going. Right. You had mentioned Aldenese for me, and I serve as the president of the state association. On my board, I've already identified people that I think, would be good stepping up into the next level. And I'm speaking into them, right? I'm giving them tasks, and we're having conversations about things because I care about the association. I want it to continue to flourish after I'm gone. It's not about me at all, right? But I'm going to be out of there. It's a 2-year term, and then you do a chairman for 2 years, and you're pretty much a past president. That's it, right? But always leave things better than when you got there, please. Is super important, and that's things to remember. At being better at things, and the books help. That's where it all starts. Learning how to do things the right way, super important.
Yeah, I think it's important to teach your staff that they are working under your ethical guidelines.
Yes.
That everything they do is reflected on you. That you take the hit if something's done wrong, both professionally and reputation wise, but also financially, because you are responsible. And I hope everyone has insurance and can cover that. But those are things that are really important, and I hope everyone's licensed who's acting as an investigator, because we only uphold the highest professional standard if we do what's required of us, and that's part of the reason I wrote the book in the first place is because it needed to be written. Okay. I often kid that it was the Wild West when I got involved in it, but I realized that would be a disservice to Billy the Kid, because it was worse than the Wild West.
Yeah.
Investigators were doing absolutely atrocious things. Just because Raymond Chandler in a book could wiretap somebody or drill a hole through a motel room and take photographs doesn't mean it's legal, doesn't mean it's ethical, doesn't mean we can do that. Investigators would do anything. They would impersonate people. They would use pretexts and ruses that were highly improper. I mean, there is an ex parte ruling that attorneys go by that I cannot interview the client of another attorney without that attorney's permission.
Being present,
So you just go and do that, and you've got to know that. You've got to know those rules, and if it can't be submitted in court, if you cannot provide a provenance for what occurred, then you should not do it.
Yeah,
it's just as simple as that. And it's so easy to get things improperly. New people to investigation who came from law enforcement cannot and should not use their previous resources to gather information if it's not legal, because there's a footprint or a fingerprint on everything that you do, and you're going to ruin your own reputation and the reputation of one of your previous colleagues who is now selling you information that you are not legally entitled to. So we have to know those things. We're in the same playing field. I just said this at the Intelenet conference a couple of weeks ago in Orlando. We all have the same superpowers. Yours are no better than mine. And just because you were the former head of intelligence of the CIA doesn't make you any better than me, because right now you're just an investigator. You're Mr. Investigator. I'm Mrs. Investigator. We have the same sources and resources and the same obligations under law. And once you remember that, it's very humbling to realize that we don't have an entire government behind us anymore. We don't have an entire police department behind us. We're on our own. And so we need each other, and we need to uphold those standards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's probably a good way to wrap this up. So again, folks, it's the Code of Professional Conduct, Standards and Ethics for the Investigative Profession, or as Kitty says, the code.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing I do want to mention is that if you are an Investigators Toolbox member, Kitty has been gracious enough to have a digital copy available for viewing on the site. It's right on the main page in one of the drop-down buckets, in the More drop-down bucket. So if you are a member of the Toolbox, definitely want to go and check that out. You can read it right off of there and reference anything. And I want to thank Kitty again for making that available to our members. It's fantastic. If you're just listening to PI Perspectives and you're not a member of Investigators Toolbox, here's another good reason to go and join, because you get access to content like that. And Kitty's actually a member of the site as well. So if you could follow up with questions on the site to her, she's on our panel of Ask a PI panel when it comes to ethics stuff. So Kitty, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and continuing to wave the torch for doing the right thing. I can't say thank you enough, and how much I appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you so much. It's the Mutual Admiration Society. I think we both do a lot for the profession. I'm very proud of it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch everybody next week on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you, Kitty, for all you do for this industry. We're excited for the new book, so don't forget to check it out as part of your Investigators Toolbox membership. And thank you to the Campbell Insurance Group for sponsoring this show. Remember to tell them you listen to us to save $50 when you apply for insurance. Additional thanks to the PI Institute for Education, Scope Now, and Satellite Investigations for sponsoring this show. Make sure you contact Satellite if you need help with any skip tracing needs. And also don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com savings. You can type in version 2.0, 25%, and you'll save $50 when you join. If you have a question or comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back again next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.